Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of NU Takes. My name is Michael Barthelemy.
And I'm Didi Jin, and we're here to give our own hot takes and spicy opinions about all things Northwestern sports. The Cats coming off of a 17-12 loss to Iowa Hawkeyes this past Saturday in a game where neither team played particularly well. It was also a family weekend in Evanston. Andrew Marty got the start over Ryan Helinski, threw for over 270 yards, one touchdown, and three interceptions. Michael, what did you think of the decision to start Marty and his overall performance?
Well, I've been thinking that Northwestern should probably switch to Marty for a couple of weeks now. Became pretty clear that Helinski's not the guy, at least this year. A few weeks ago, and that performance in Michigan really solidified that in my eyes. Didn't play to a caliber that had the potential for Northwestern to win games, and I think Andrew Marty is weirdly, just because he was always sort of an afterthought the past couple of years, the most electric player quarterback that Northwestern has on their roster. He's sort of like what Hunter Johnson was like. He's like a slightly upgraded Hunter Johnson, where he can do stuff with his legs, but also a little through the air. I really like what Marty brings on the ground, especially just he's a very strong runner, which I think is something Northwestern really kind of needs to go alongside Evan Hull, where they can run some option plays. And I'd like them to do that a little more at Wisconsin. I think that the decision to start Marty, though, was a good one, seeing that just every other quarterback was struggling.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that I think a lot of Northwestern fans. I think anyone who's been following the team all year knows that Helinski and Hunter Johnson, they really haven't been playing too well. And I think that the decision, at least to start Marty over Helinski, was a pretty clear one. Helinski, I don't want to throw shade on him, but he wasn't really doing anything well. In the week, against in the games that he started after Nebraska. He wasn't making the short throws, wasn't making the long throws, wasn't making plays with his legs. Decision making wise was okay, but he didn't. Again, like you were talking about Marty, his ability to run, to kind of provide sort of an electric shock to the offense. That just wasn't something that Helinski was bringing in any aspect of the game. But I do want to give one take. I think that Hunter Johnson should be given the opportunity to start again.
But just for like a
Um,
full circle moment, or what?
I just think that I think Marty. We'll getting into Marty's performance, against Iowa. To be frank, it just wasn't very good. Iowa's got a crazy good defense. We all know that. But at the same time, I think Marty's sort of lack of arm talent sort of showed. Should have kind of really showed itself against Iowa. Obviously, he had a couple of interceptions where he just, did not put enough on the ball. There was his first one, where he was trying to get a deep shot, just didn't get enough on it. The interception to end the game, just kind of floated it up there. And then I think that even one big play that he had, that completion to Stephon Robinson, coming out of the end of the first half, that big 41-yard gain, or it might have been a 38-yard gain from Northwestern's on 3-yard line. That could have been a touchdown if he had thrown it, a little bit harder. Instead, he severely underthrew Robinson. The drive, turned out into a field goal. So I think that, Marty does bring a lot to the offense, at least in terms of his ability to run. But, against Iowa, he didn't really do much of that. And I just, I don't know how high the ceiling is for this offense with him at the helm. I think that it's a very, kind of maybe they can grind out, some scores like they did against Iowa. But at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to be able to put up touchdowns without, someone who can really sling the ball. And the only one who's really showed any potential of that is Hunter Johnson. Let's not forget Michigan State. Let's not forget, how he's just dropping dimes left and right. So that is my hot take. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't really know, just because at this point they've gone through three quarterbacks, and it's becoming clear with every single one that no matter what, this offense is going to struggle. So I think the issue is larger than the quarterback, and sure that the quarterbacks that Northwestern currently has rostered none of them may be the guy who's gonna be slinging it around, putting up these great performances week in, week out. But I think for what Northwestern's offense is now, which is, struggle fest, but also really works better with the smaller plays and running the ball. I think Marty is best equipped for this. And the big thing with Hunter Johnson, I don't really see the point in starting Hunter Johnson at this stage of the season, seeing that he's going to be on his way out regardless this year. At least with Marty, you have the hopes that he's going to take his COVID year that he has last year. So even with him being a senior, he's going to be able to come back and be the quarterback for next year. With Hunter Johnson, there's none of that. I say stick with Marty, maybe find Helinski back later in the year.
How do you think that Northwestern is going to do against Wisconsin in Madison? A note: the current betting line is Wisconsin as 24-point favorites. So how do you think Northwestern's gonna do with that?
Yeah, well, Vegas knows more times than not, and I'm interested to see if there's anyone who does believe that Northwestern can win this game. Are you someone who thinks that? Because I think it's kind of just going to be hopeless. Offense not going to be able to move the ball, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no shot that Northwestern, wins this game. Again, like regardless of who's at the quarterback, regardless of even if they play, the best game of their season, just the way with how Wisconsin has been playing, going into Camp Randall, that environment, I think. Wisconsin, just with their defense and, what their offense has been doing in recent weeks. I mean, they've been playing not like a top 20 team and they're ranked 20 right now, but they've been playing like, a top 10, maybe even top 5 team. I mean, they've given up under 10 points per game over the course of their last 5 games. And they played some good teams. They played a solid Iowa squad. They played Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers is whatever, but they played Purdue, limited Purdue to 13 points, held Illinois scoreless. That's not something to scoff at. Obviously, Wisconsin had a tougher start to the season, sort of getting washed by Notre Dame and Michigan. But since then, they've bounced back really nicely. Clearly have shown, an ability to take advantage of kind of mediocre, less than mediocre opponents, which is kind of the category that Northwestern falls under right now. So I think, that line is justified. And, there's just, in my eyes, yeah, like you said, there's just no shot that Northwestern wins.
Yeah, Wisconsin's pretty back to like what Wisconsin is, where it's an suffocating defense, and then Braylon Allen has emerged as a solid back for them, a quite good one, and just a freshman from Fond du Lac, Illinois. I'm not Wisconsin. So there it is, a Midwestern running back and an unreal defense.
That's it's just Big Ten football.
Yeah. So moving on to a maybe more optimistic note, men's basketball. All right. Northwestern men's basketball tips off their season today against the Eastern Illinois Panthers at Welsh Ryan Arena. The Cats finished last season with a record of 9-15 and a conference total of 6-13, which included a 13-game losing streak in the middle of conference play. Fans have been hesitant with their optimism for the past few seasons. With this group of returning starters and returning production is, again, the story of the offseason. But Didi, will there legitimately be a step in the right direction, or is it going to be the same sort of smoke and mirrors saying that Northwestern's going to be a bubble team?
Yeah, I think that kind of before getting into my prediction, I think that this is the year. This is kind of the make or break year for Chris Collins. I think there's no more, the guys that he's been talking about getting experience with. Those are all 3rd or 4th year guys by now. Talking about guys like Boo Buie, Pete Nance, Ryan Young. They've been in this program. They've been starting for 3-4 years. And this is the year, I think that's, like no more excuses, no more, oh, this is a young team. I think that, there needs to be results. Otherwise, who knows what's going to happen with Chris Collins, who's going to know what happen with the program. But I think that, I'm a believer in this team. I think that, obviously there hasn't been a lot of, reasons for optimism in past years. But I think that Northwestern can really finally turn the corner this year. I think that, they have a lot of talent at their disposal. And, they showed it off at points last year, obviously, again, the 13-game losing streak, kind of reminiscent of how the program has been playing ever since, they made that magical run to the tournament. But I think that Northwestern could finish in the upper half of the Big Ten, which is really saying something considering they finished second to last the past 2 years. But I think that they could finish with, around a 500 record. And I'm gonna say it. I think that a bid to March Madness is definitely a possibility. I mean, it's always a possibility, but I think that um, there's reason to believe that Northwestern can get there. Personally, I'm a big fan of all the incoming freshmen, especially Julian Roper. I think he brings a grit to the team that kind of really hasn't been there. You know, the guys are hungry. You know, seniors like Pete Nance, especially, you know, kind of after losing Miller Kopp to a rival. Nonetheless, you know, within the same conference, I think the guys are hungry to kind of, you know, make some tangible improvements. And you know, I'm optimistic for the team.
Yeah, I have a very hard time just being optimistic about Northwestern basketball in general, just based on how Collins' tenure post March Madness bid and pre March Madness bid have been. It's really just that 1 year. Few other that year after was a little bit all right, but for the most part, it's been you can't trust the Cats. They're gonna let you down, and I think we might be on to another case of that. It's a great group. We've seen the group grow and have their moments. Michigan State last year was a moment. Ohio State was a moment last year. They've had the times where they've looked like a great team with, I mean, you have Pete Nance and now Ty Berry, who coaches are all over. Everyone loves Ty Berry. I do think Ty Berry is going to take a big step this year and be the number one option by the end of the year. But Boo Booey, I like Elijah Williams a lot, adding him. I think he's going to be a great piece for them. He brings more of what you were talking about with the grit. Elijah Williams brings more of that himself. I do think this is going to be a better team than last year. And with the Big Ten getting a little bit worse, I think this does open up an opportunity for Northwestern to be a better side. I think, yeah, their ceiling is a 500, 10-10, 11-9 type of season in conference. I think they do have the ability to do that. But again, the Big Ten is such a gauntlet. You have to play a great team every single week. And I think that Northwestern won't really be able to stick around for that long. And I don't think they're going to contend for any sort of conference title. I don't know if they're going to be playing for March Madness bids. I wouldn't put my money to have them with a solid year just based around, I don't think that a Chris Collins coach team can have that good of a year, especially in today's game of modern basketball. I think that Chris Collins has translated himself very poorly to that. And for that reason alone of coaching, I think that Northwestern will be a lackluster squad. And it's going to be a team where you look around and you say, how are they not better? Because they have scores out the wazoo and a veteran team. This has become a veteran team. But something tells me, despite Julian Roper and Casey Simmons coming in with all the talent in the world, despite having Boo Booey, Robbie Barron, Ryan Young, Pete Nance coming back for a third season all playing together, and despite Chase Auddee showing flashes of great scoring potential last year and Ty Berry doing the same, I think that Northwestern is going to fall just short of it, just based on coaching and that they haven't been there before. So I think this team finishes with more of like a 8-12, 7-13, probably more of an 8-12, maybe 9-11 type of season. But I think 11-9 doing positive in the Big Ten is sort of out of the picture.
Yeah, I think that's an unrealistic expectation for this team. But in terms of, you know, what to expect and what Chris Collins should produce this year with the squad that he has, I think that 8-12 should really be kind of the baseline for what a successful season could look like. You know, whether or not that's, you know, contending for getting a bid in March Madness. I think that showing that it's a team that, you know, is capable of hanging with like kind of Big Ten contenders, and a team that's capable of, you know, winning some of those games and, you know, potentially going to the tournament. I think that's a baseline, for the squad. Like you said, this is a veteran team, right? This is no longer a young team. It's led by, you know, juniors and seniors at the helm with a lot of young talent coming in. I think that in regards to Chris Collins as a coach, you know, I really don't know what it is. I don't know how, to be honest, he's getting all of these, you know, these high star recruits.
Yeah.
You know, for the past 2 years, it's you know, this year, obviously, you know, Julian Roper, Casey Simmons, you know, one of the highest recruits ever to come into the program. Julian Roper, Brooks Barnheiser, you know, all three of those guys are, you know, probably in the top 20, at least in terms of, 247 star ratings. And then even looking to the class of 2026, Rowan Brumbaugh is a top 100 point guard in the country. So I think that, I couldn't tell you what it is, but there has to be, I think, in my eyes, some sort of kind of belief in Collins that I think, that it really means something, beyond just, how the team is going to play, the lack of transfers. I mean, obviously Miller Kopp is gone, but, the fact that guys like Pete Nance, Robbie Barron, especially in this age of college basketball, have all stuck around and, believe in the program, believe in, the vision for what this program and what this squad can be. That makes me optimistic. I think more than anything, more than, looking at maybe the analytics and, the rest of the conference, that makes me optimistic to think that the Cats, could have a 500 season or better in conference this year.
Yeah, if anything, I'd like Northwestern to excuse Chris Collins of coaching duties and make him like the recruiting director, because you're right. I don't know how he does that. He just comes in and is like, look what we're building. And it's 6-13 in conference. Like 2-18 in conference. And he's like, see, we're getting better though. And then somehow he's able to get these like 4-star recruits who are very good.
It's
I'm
insane.
not complaining about it, but it's time for the talent to actually like convert into production on the court. And he hasn't done that for the past however many years. Then it's been talented guys who just can't like come together and play well. And I have so much hesitancy believing in Chris Collins, in a Chris Collins coach squad, despite having great players all around the court.
Yeah, it's he definitely hasn't given anyone, fans in particular, any sort of reasons to believe in him throughout his coaching career, to be honest, like you said, outside of that season.
But with that being said, they're going to win today in Eastern Illinois.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That'll play with the game.
Did you see how they played against Lindenwood? 45-point victory.
Yeah, they'll tease you with those. They'll tease you with those.
But to note though, Ty Berry had a very strong game. Regardless of the opponent, 17 points. 5 for 7, 2 for 2 from 3.
Yeah. Remember, I covered the game against Arkansas Pine Bluff last year, and I walked away being like, "Oh my goodness, I think Northwestern's going to be something this year." And like they were proving me right for the first couple of games, 19th in the nation, and suddenly it just became Northwestern basketball. But like those non-conference games will tease you. They're going to tease you.
Yeah, they will. And there's more of them this year than last year, so we'll see what happens. Moving on to the women's side of things, where on the basketball side things went much better in 2020. But coming off of a Big Ten winning 2019, where Joe's McEwen squad continued to find success last year and finished the season 16-9 with the 11-7 conference record and an NCAA tournament win. The team obviously loses perennial point scorer Lindsey Pulliam to graduation, but is still headlined by one of the best players in the Big Ten, Veronica Burton. There's a couple of core pieces that are still in place for this year's squad, but do you think that there's enough players that will step up, to ensure a similar season to last? And what is a record you kind of want to see from this team?
Well, I don't have very high expectations for Northwestern women's basketball. I'm trying to keep my expectations low because I know that there's going to be some growing pains early, because there's obviously Veronica Burton. We know Veronica Burton is one of the best players in the country, one of the most dynamic point guards in the country, and one of the best players who's ever walked into Welsh Ryan Arena. And then there's Sydney Wood, who is a talented, I don't know if she's great as a second option, but she's a very talented player. And if she can develop any bit of a jump shot, then she'll be a great contributor for Northwestern. She did a great job in small ball offense last year. Same thing goes for Courtney Shaw. I think she did very well in the Blizzard defense too. I think both her and Wood did for the small ball roles. Everyone really did, including Paige Mott as well. Lauren Satterwhite, I think, will have a solid year. I think they have good veteran pieces, but it's really going to be like a youth movement in Evanston between Jillian Brown, Kaylee Walsh, Melanie Daly, and Mercy Sorry, I don't want to mispronounce anything. Adamusayo, I believe. Um, they have a ton of talented first years, but the issue is going to be with all first years really is just adjusting to college basketball. And we saw that in their exhibition match, and it was against they played a Wisconsin Parkside team that, I mean, let's just be honest, is not very good. But the first years did struggle. Northwestern only won by 12 points, which, I mean, 12, they still won, but to beat a team like that by 12 points is no feat really for a team that like Northwestern. Julian Brown shot 3 of 10. Kaylee Walsh shot 0 of 9. There's going to be learning curves early and often. So it's really just Cats fans, you have to be patient with this team. I think later in conference play, though, they will be a dynamic team and a team that can play upset. I think that their conference record will be around 500, maybe a little bit more. I think that just based on the fact that there's teams that are returning much more talent in the Big Ten. Big Ten is a good conference for basketball. I don't know if Northwestern will be able to hang in with every single big opponent that they play. But I think that later on in the year, they're going to be able to play some spoiler ball and end up a little over 500, maybe around 500. And I think that'll be a good step for this team. That sure, it's going to be a little like underwhelming for Veronica Burton's senior year, but for next year and the years after, they're setting up a good foundation for what these players can do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, losing Lindsey Pulliam is, as big of a blow that can come to any program. Obviously, incredibly talented player, and that, her loss, I think, really affects. I mean, of course, but like it affects the offense, and the offense is the thing that I'm most concerned about this team moving forward. Even last year with Pulliam and with Burton, those are really the only two reliable contributors on the offensive side of the ball. Who can make plays for Northwestern. And there were, many a time during the regular season last year where Northwestern simply could not buy a bucket because if one of those two players, were off or, unable to score, there weren't a lot of other players stepping up. There wasn't a reliable 3-point shooter, that Pulliam could dish it off to or that Burton could dish it off to. So I think that's going to be, really key this year to see, how, especially like you were talking about the first years, like we saw in the exhibition game. Julian Brown, there was 2 first years in the starting lineup who, did not shoot the ball very well. But, Northwestern's going to need them to kind of step up in that area to play an offense, to play at least, some sort of role offensively right from the get-go. And like you said, there's going to be growing pains. But at the end of the day, I think that Joe McKeown has sort of proved in his time in Northwestern that, he can coach. He's a good coach. He can put a team together. And I think that this, is going to be, another sort of test for him, another sort of test for this team. But, any team that's led by, a player like Veronica Burton, again, one of the best players going into the Big Ten, just so good on both sides of the ball. I think that, you're always in a good spot, when you've got a player like that on your squad. But, I think that, around 500 is a fair prediction for this team. Like you said, I think they're going to start out a little slow, and then they're going to probably not be ranked around the middle of the year, and then maybe start beating, pulling off some upsets, as the team gels together, as the first years kind of get more playing experience. But overall, I think that the outlook on this team should be optimistic. It should be one where there's no maybe not like kind of opposite of football. There's no sort of major down year instead, but just, kind of like a mini, maybe they're not as good as they have been over the course of the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as that second option, I'm interested in who you think it is. I think Julian Brown has the potential to be similar to Pulliam, and there's going to be points where we see Burton and Brown on the court together and say, oh, hey, I recognize this. This looks like Burton and Pulliam. I'm interested in who you think is going to step up to be like a second option, a third option. Do you think Sydney Wood can develop an outside jump shot? Do you think Courtney Shaw is going to take that next step, or do you think it'll be a first year?
I think I'm going to go with the experience on this one. I think it's going to be Sydney Wood. I think that, again, she's a senior. She's been with this team. She entered this program, not maybe directly with players like Pulliam and Burton, but, she had the opportunity to learn under those, 2 great guards and players And I think that, she's shown flashes of what she can do, on both sides of the ball, on offense and defense. I think that on defense last year, she was Big Ten all defensive team and, sort of started showing her offensive prowess. She was an all Big Ten honorable mention. And I think that she's going to need to step up offensively this year. Again, she has shown the potential. She has had some explosive scoring outputs. She had a 19-point performance last year against Minnesota. She's scored double digits, multiple times in her career. So I think it's the ball's on her. I think that it's tough to ask any freshman to kind of play a major offensive role, especially in a conference as brutal as the Big Ten. So I think it's Sydney Wood. It's got to be Sydney Wood who takes that responsibility. Who is it in your eyes?
Like I said, I don't know if it'll be right away just because of the growing pains, but based on what we saw last game as well, I think it'll be Julian Brown. She took 10 shots in her last game, and sure, it's an exhibition, but for a freshman, that's very bold. It shows that she has a quick trigger and is not really willing to like she's very much willing to score the ball. And I think just based on what she did in high school, which yes, is high school, but what she did is she scored a lot. And I think she's going to be able to come into Northwestern and have all sorts of opportunities to score the ball because there isn't that established two option. And I think being in the backcourt with Veronica Burton is going to do her incredible favors. There's going to be a lot of steal opportunities, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for her to not see as much defense on her and get open looks early and often. And I think because of that, she has the ability to and the confidence to knock down those shots, and that she will more later down the year. But I think that Sydney Wood, I'm kind of on the outs of believing that she's going to develop that jump shot. I think she's a great paint player. I think with what she does very, very well. But I just don't know if she can be a distinguished two option, just seeing that her game is one-dimensional offensively. I think Julian Brown brings a lot of different things to the offense and is something that will help the Cats a lot later in the year. And sneaker pick, always throw that out there, Anna Morris. I'm an Anna Morris fan.
Yeah, I mean, Anna Morris, she's a very, very highly touted recruit at high school. So, we'll see if maybe this is, her breakout campaign.
Exactly. Northwestern needs size. They got more size now, but it comes in the form of young players, and she's weirdly enough the most experienced big. So, well, that does it for us from NU Takes. With basketball season right around the corner, we'll be following alongside with you. My name is Michael Barthelemy.
And I'm Didi Jin.
We will see you all next week.